Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Guys, today I'm going to explain you about the domain. As I told you, a domain is a very important concept in function. If you don't know the domain, you can't do anything in calculus. Domain plays a very important role in calculus. In my previous lecture, I told you about the functions, right? I covered all the contents related to functions. Now I want to explain about a domain. I have to explain domain and range, but first I will explain domain, and then inshallah later on I will explain you a range. So I will make at least 10 videos based on domain. So domain plays a very important role, right? So please focus about the domain. Today we will discuss about the domain of a square root function, and I promise you, if you will see this video, you will find a unique method. You will not find this method in any book. It's my own method, okay? And I know all the methods, how to solve, how to find the domain of the function, but I think that this method is very useful, and it has a trick, you know. I will tell you the trick, and in 5 seconds you can tell what is the domain of a function. So I'm going to start my video. So as I told you, I'm going to tell you about a square root function. A square root function. Square root function. And in a square root function, as I told you, this is a square root function. It means we will take the positive part of this one. When I say square root, so square root means we will take both parts. We will consider both positive and negative. But when we say a square root function, it means we will just consider the positive part. The equation will be y is equal to fx. Right? You can say fx, you can say y, both are the same things. And this is equal to square root of x. This one I want to tell you, right? So fx is equal to under root x, and here the graph of under root x is always this one. You can see this is the graph of square root function, right? As I told you, we will consider the positive part, we will not take the negative part. So this is the graph of a square root function. You can say this is the parent function of a square root. Now the topic is find the domain. You have to find domain. Okay guys? And domain of the square root function, and the type will be this one. I'm going to describe you two types of a square root function. So number one, type 1. Type 1. What is the type 1? Means you have a linear function, means fx is equal to square root ax plus b. And this one is the linear function. This one is the linear function, right? Is the linear function where this a is greater than 0. This is very important. This is called type 1. Type 1 means the value of a is greater than 0, or you can say the slope is greater than 0, right? And the b is the y-intercept, and all these things is under the square root, right? So this is called type 1. Okay, example. Example, if I give you this question 1, fx is equal to 2x plus 2. I can ask you this question, fx is equal to 3x minus 1. I can ask you fx is equal to 4x minus 3. Okay, any function you can write here, any linear function you can write, but remember in type 1 you have to mention here what? The value of a must be greater than 0. So here you can say this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. So 2, 3 and 4 is greater than 0. All the values are here which are greater than 0. So I am going to tell you how to find the domain of such function, this one and this one, right? So you can see the answer here. Right? So the question you have to do here, actually the domain is the values of x. When we talk about the values of x, it means we are going right side or the left side. Okay, for finding the domain means the values of x, right, where the function exists. So we will just move right side or the left side. We are not talking about up and down, we are talking about the right side or the left side. Okay, so whenever you have, means this one, you can say either we are talking about this one, this side, 1, 2, 3, or we can say here minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, right? So in this case, whenever you have under root x and here this the slope is positive in type 1, the graph always, for example, if you have y is equal to fx, which is under root ax plus b, right? And where this is very important, this is very important, a is greater than 0. As I told you, this is a type 1, right? This is a type 1. So you can say the graph always start, I'm not going to tell you the exact graph, okay? Whenever you have this a which is greater than, the direction is always like this one, this side, always this side. Whenever you see a is positive, the graph will go this side. I'm not going to make here the exact graph, I'm telling you where my curve is going. Okay, we can find the end point. So the second point, or you can say the end point, it goes continue, right? Continue, right? So we can say it's going on the right side, this side, and this side is positive infinity. And for the positive infinity, I use the open bracket, right? So I know this is very important. The right side will be always the positive infinity. And now we have to find out the first point. Okay, so the domain will be what? The first point to the end point. Example, if I'm going to ask you what is the domain of this one, means fx is equal to under root 2x plus 2. So what you have to do, how will you find the first point here? The first point you have to find, this is your domain, right? How will you find domain? As you see that this is what? This is positive number, right? It means the graph is going this way and this answer will be positive infinity. Always. This is positive infinity. And for this one, you have to write always the minus sign, and take this number divided by this number, means 2 by 2. So directly you can say 2 by 2, which is what? Minus 1 to positive infinity. So we can say, and here you have to use what? This bracket. This is very important. You have to use the open close bracket here, and here you have to use what? The open bracket. For the infinity, you have what? The open bracket. This is close bracket because you have to take minus 1, and this is what? You have to take close bracket because we are not going to take the positive infinity. So the domain of this function is minus infinity to positive infinity. For example, I have second question. So you can say I'm going to write down directly answer number 2. Here, if you see this 3 is positive, okay, so you have to make this one positive infinity, and here use this one. Take this is minus, always minus, so this is what? Take this coefficient, this is what? This is minus 1, so write down here minus 1, and this is what? 3, right? So you can say minus minus plus, so you can say 1 over 3 to positive infinity. This is the domain of second one, right? So always take this number divided by this number, and then take minus sign always. This is the formula you can see. So the domain of this function is 1 over 3 to positive infinity. In the same way, I'm going to solve here answer 3. In answer 3, we have 4x minus 3. As you can see, this is 4, right? This is what? A positive number. It means the right side is always positive infinity, right? And here this is minus, so I will consider this one what? As a positive, means here minus. And here what is that? This is minus 3 divided by what? 4. So you can say minus minus plus 3 over 4 to positive infinity. For the positive infinity, use the open bracket 3 by 4 close bracket. This is the domain of the third one. Now we will solve a lot of questions, and then you will understand it well. Okay, for example, now I have this question. Any question you can say, any question you can give me. For example, we have a question, fx, which is 2x plus 3. Like the question is find the domain. Find domain. So as you can see, this is what? This is what? 2, which is greater than 3. Okay, you must know the direction will be always this side. Okay, it means the domain here, it will be positive infinity, and for the positive infinity you have to use the open bracket, and for here you have to use you have to use the close bracket, then minus, what is this number? This number is 3 divided by this number 2. This is the domain of this function, minus 3 by 2 for positive. Domain means if you give any number between from here to here, this function exists, and if you give any number outside of this interval, the function never exists. So we can say the domain is minus 3 by 2 to positive infinity. One more example I can give you. For example, if I have fx is equal to under root, you can say x by 2 minus or plus 4. And the question is find domain. You have to find the domain, right? So how will you find the domain? You have to check only. So this one you can say this is 1 over 2, right? When you see 1 over 2, it means this is what? A positive value, right? 1 over 2 is greater than 0. It means the direction of the x will be this side, right? So again we have what? The positive infinity, use the open bracket. Now you have to take here minus this number. What is this number? 4. And here is what? 1 over 2. So when you solve this question, this will be 2 multiplied by 4, 8, comma, positive infinity. Again, don't use this bracket, use a close bracket. So the domain is from minus 8 to positive infinity. Guys, I think all of you understand, and in my next lecture I will explain you about type 2. In type 2 I will tell you if the slope is negative. Okay, try to solve these questions whenever you are free, and if you have a question, mention this in the comment. Whenever we have a time, we will reply you. Okay, take care, bye bye.